Do vintage speakers degrade with time? This question comes from Rizwan in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Paul, as we know that an amplifier deteriorates over time as the capacitors dry up, etc., somehow the caps can be replaced. How about speakers? As we know, the magnet does lose its power over a very long period of time. So my question is, do vintage speakers suffer from the same problem as amplifiers? Well, yes, they do, but maybe not so much in the way that you were thinking. I know that magnets do lose their magnetic abilities over time. That is true. But in all the years I've done this, I have never found a permanent magnet properly made on a loudspeaker that has lost enough of its magnetic flux to actually make a difference. Now, to be real honest, I haven't measured a lot of those, but the efficiency of speakers seems to be the same. But here's well, this is a vintage speaker, right? So the IRS was made in 1985, and this is what, 2019? So I don't do math very well, but that's a number of years. So this is 30-something years old. And these speakers do deteriorate, and they have deteriorated, in fact. So one of the things that deteriorated on these speakers were these neodymium magnets in front. So I had to replace every one of these magnets in front, not because they had lost their magnetic flux, the magnetic power that makes them work, but because these particular neodymium magnets had been, how do I put this? They had been built in such a way that the powder they were constructed of was coming apart. So neodymium is a very powerful magnetic structure, and if I remember right, they machine it somehow, but it needs to somehow be protected from the air. And I don't remember all the details, but I remember Infinity made these long strips. They chrome plated them to protect them from whatever happens to neodymium magnets. And that chrome plating came off, and they started to deteriorate. And I think the worst problem wasn't so much that the magnets deteriorated, because that probably happens over a very long period of time, but because the little shards of chrome would get off and then get into the planar driver and short it out, and then that would ruin the driver. That's actually, I think, what actually happened. So I had to have all these replaced, but that's fairly rare. What actually happens more happens to woofers. You see these surrounds here? I don't know. I know you're not looking very close, but we can picture a woofer with its cone and then its surround. So its surround is the flexible part of the woofer when it goes in and out that holds this woofer in place. And this surround on here, boy, I mean, that's typically what goes wrong with them. That'll crumble because it is flexible. And these all had to be replaced, these 30-something-year-old speakers. I had to go to Bill Legal, who's a very famous designer, not designer, but repairer of loudspeakers. And he went and redid all of these drivers for me. And he did a terrific job. He's really good at it. And you can go online and find various kits that will replace the cones, that will replace sometimes even the spider. The spider is the part where the back of the woofer cone attaches, and it's also flexible. So all those flexible parts are what over time degrade in a loudspeaker. The surrounds, the spider, those kinds of things really do degrade over time and can become problematic. I don't think the magnetic structure is going to be such a big deal unless you have EMIM drivers like I did with their peeling chrome on here, and that was a big problem for me. So yes, they can and do degrade over time, and that can be a problem, but they can all be repaired for the most part. All right. Thank you, all the way from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, right next to Singapore. Gorgeous country, and thank you very much for asking the question, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.